Welcome, welcome everyone to the next edition of the Stay on Course podcast. Today I have Andrew Griffiths. He's a legacy-minded CEO and the founder of Annexus Technologies, a multinational IT firm known for building infrastructure so strong it rarely needs fixing. Andrew is a strategist, philosopher of security, and a storyteller with a deep belief in designing systems that protect people, not just profits. Andrew, welcome to the Stay on Course podcast.
Thank you very much, Julie.
It's
Very much
so
appreciate.
exciting to have you here today.
No, thank you. I'm pleased to be honest.
Amazing. But before we get started, I ask all of my guests, what is your favorite food?
So personally, I would have to say ackee and corn pork. It's very it's very different. So typically, the national dish for Jamaica is ackee and saltfish. But what most people don't actually know that you can actually substitute the saltfish for corn pork instead. But it has to be done a certain way where believe you boil it and then you fry it into like bite-sized pieces and actually include it within the ackee. Like it's a very different variety, and ultimately that is really my favorite, to be honest.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So I'm interested in trying that someday.
It's worth it.
Yeah, awesome. So Andrew, you have this amazing company. Just give us a little background on how you got started and why you do what you do.
I've always seen myself as being able to connect people, being able to solve problems, being able to assist people to really overcome their challenges. So for me, while I was young, I've always been exposed to a lot of the IT infrastructure. I was around a lot of satellites. I was around a lot of electronics, TVs, VCRs, DVDs, direct TV, all these different things. And ultimately, it really skewed my view of IT from the perspective that I saw that this IT infrastructure was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And at the same time, it connected everyone and allowed everyone to be able to not just see themselves in a different light, but also be able to utilize this technology to be able to improve their own lives. And ultimately, because I'm so interested in optimizing life, optimizing things that already exist and to make them better, I said, hey, why not IT? Now, as it pertains to IT, like it's so dynamic, it's so wide ranging that, to be honest, it's one of those beasts that you cannot fully contain. You can only know certain aspects of it. And even when you do know enough aspects of it, you still don't know enough, right? But at the end of the day, that process of gaining more information, gaining more knowledge, gaining understanding, and then applying it through wisdom, that, to be honest, is what I fell in love with. And I very much appreciate it.
Wow, amazing. And tell us, like, I know your company's in Jamaica and you're in Canada. Tell us a little bit about your teams.
Yeah, so we're actually registered in Jamaica from 2014, and we've actually been delivering, I would say, high-end services and solutions since then. To be honest, the move to Canada is ultimately to be able to expand our horizons, gain better support, and gain actually access to better clients, so to speak, that will be able to not just understand what it is that we're trying to achieve, but also be willing to take that step with us so that we can take them on this journey.
I love that. That's so exciting. And so today we're going to talk about CIOs. We're going to talk about what smart CIOs do and their unspoken rules of leadership. So I know you work with a lot of CIOs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, to be honest, the mind of a CIO is quite different, right? So most people look at CIOs as just, okay, anyone that deals with technical, but in actuality, CIOs are specific to providing technical services or technical solutions to internal clients, not external clients. So when it is that you're more focused on your internal clients, you are basically looking at a subset of individuals that are there to provide services for you, but at the same time, because of their negligence or their lack of understanding, they may be the ones to compromise your very network. So you have to look at them as friends, but at the same time, have a certain level of non-trust to ensure that you are always secured and the data is always secured at all times, right? It's not about taking it personally. It's just so understanding that we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And once you see that you have the systems in place to be able to mitigate a lot of these problems, you'll always end up good in the long run.
Yeah,
As I say, prevention is better than cure, right?
exactly. Exactly. So let's get into the ingredients for success. How do we make the CIO more successful than they are right now? What is the first ingredient for success?
I'm going to be honest, one of the major hurdles of being a CIO is visibility, right? Most don't actually know what's going on inside their network, and most don't actually also don't know what's going on outside their network. And to be honest, we have to take a look at both sides, not just the internal, but also the external. And at the same time, by ensuring that you have a secure design, you're able to get the best of both worlds. So I would say that that's definitely key. The next aspect of it is ultimately because you're now focused on the internal and external, you have to understand that these are two different domains. So although you have zero trust, you're going to have more trust for what's inside versus what is outside, obviously, right? So there now you understand that there are now layers of trust,
Mm.
right? And then from there, ultimately, it's just ensuring that you not only understand what's running on your network, but also what you actually want to run on the network and locking it down, securing it in such a way that what is needed is available and what is not needed or what they're not supposed to have access to, they do not.
Okay. And how does your company help them figure that all out?
We actually have, I would say, numerous levels of assessments that we put in place, depending on I would say, the environment that the client exists within. But what I would say is this, firstly, any system that we provide, it has to stick to the tenets of the CIA, right? And the CIA from an IT standpoint, ultimately is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So once it is that you're able to put in a system that take these tenants into account, and then you actually do your assessments, which is basically do a gap analysis or even doing a risk analysis, it will then expose to you what you need to actually cover. Now, for Annexus, what we actually do is that instead of just looking at the full design initially, we actually do some initial assessments. So we typically start off with a public domain assessment where it is able to provide you with the information on your external posture, right? What services do you actually connect to? What third-party services do you actually have running on your domain? What services do you actually want to be able to deliver from your domain directly, right? Now, at the same time, what many people don't understand is that although these respective services that are run by third parties, you are still liable, right? Now, we're going in a world where there's GDPR, there's PIPDIA, there's PCI, there's so many different standards as it pertains to data protection. And ultimately, we all need to understand that even as CIOs need to understand that we're living in a world that's multinational. And ultimately, although you're providing services in the US or the UK or Canada, your clients may not come from that respective location. So how do you ensure that you secure all this data, all this infrastructure, and ensure that you can provide that level of service to your clients, irrespective of where their location is? So from our perspective, we take into account all these different standards that exist, and ultimately we curate or create an environment or a solution that is able to meet or exceed all these requirements, to be honest.
Hmm. Okay. And once you get all that information, what do they do then? Like, what would be the next step or the next ingredient for success after that was done?
Well, firstly, you have to analyze the information, right? So we have to actually take that information, analyze it, make sense of what is there, because ultimately that domain assessment, it would be able to provide us with, okay, do you have any credentials on the dark web? What is your security posture like? It literally actually gives you a rating from 0 to 100, obviously, of your existing cybersecurity posture. And based on that, it actually highlights what the benchmark is for your industry, as well as where you are right now. So it takes into account, as I said before, your how many individuals or how many accounts have been leaked to the dark web. It also looks at the services that you actually have on your domain. And also, it actually takes into account whether these services have been configured correctly, meaning that in some cases, you may have this IT infrastructure set up, looks beautiful, works as it should. But then when you actually do a scan, you realize that you have databases being exposed to the internet. And once a database is exposed to the
Oh
internet,
no.
it's very easy for you to then go in and get that information. And that ultimately is what causes a lot of these data breaches.
That's crazy. And it really puts you in a compromised position.
It does. But here's the thing though, Julie. If you are able to, as you said, prevention is better than cure, right? But the next step actually is just being proactive, right? So if you cannot prevent it, just be proactive enough where in the event that it does happen, you actually have a plan in place already that you can quickly implement and be able to mitigate the issue, right? So for us at the Nexus, we actually focus a lot on the proactivity as well, in
Mm.
terms of how we design these solutions. We ensure that these solutions are secure in such a way that in the event of you being exposed, it's going to be a limited exposure. In the event that you are going to be breached, it should be limited to that particular area so that you're able to reduce the effects on your overall organization. We also have another particular platform that actually is able to see when it is that a bad actor, so to speak, is connected to your network and actually tries to scan it. Because at the end of the day, what we found is that when you look at the MITRE attack, or even just general, like when you look at just in things in general, before you can actually action anything, you have to actually do reconnaissance. And during this reconnaissance stage, that's where you ultimately find out a lot of these problems, right? Now, in order to do any reconnaissance, you have to run a scan. Now, if it is that you have a tool that is able to notify you immediately as a scan is being
Oh,
run, it will then be able to further help in your mitigation planning, right? And then on top of that, this particular system, what it does prior to it being able to, do what it does, it actually goes out, scans a network, and then creates a virtual network infrastructure, a proxy, so to speak. So in the event that your anyone new is connecting, it's actually connected to an environment that we already control. And that way now we have better control of not just who's connecting, or what they're connecting to, but ultimately seeing what it is that they're actually doing on the network while it is that they're connected, right? So for us, it's about honestly tricking the trickster. It really comes down to that.
I love that. I love that. And I love the idea that you need to be ready before. I'm all about being ready. I always talk about getting ready for opportunities and things like that, but being ready before you could potentially have a problem is really important.
Very much so. Very much so. In fact, so even when you do like, let's say martial arts, right? They will always tell you that it is easier for you to evade an oncoming attack if you're already in motion. But if you're going from zero, meaning standstill, to now trying to make a move, oh, you're gonna get hit. So just being able to be on your toes, being moving having head movement, so to speak. These are fighting terminologies, right? Physical fighting. But at the end of the day, what people don't understand that self-defense is really a conceptual. It's very much conceptual, and we take those same concepts within IT as well.
Yeah. Interesting. So what else? What else do they need to have as an ingredient for success?
So after actually analyzing this information, you then need to put in steps, the plan to be able to mitigate these issues.
Mm.
And that typically is where most of the time is going to be spent. Why? There's so many ways to solve a problem, right? So IT is really based on math, right? And you would know, hey, some people, they have the long way of doing division, some may have the short way of doing the division, but at the end of the day, it's the same answer, right? And typically it's the same way with IT to some extent. Now, there are some ways that you can put in that ultimately will increase or increase the, I would say, the effectiveness of your overall solution. But at the same time, it may not be cost effective for your organization. Whereas there are other solutions that may be cost effective for your solution, for your environment or based on your budget, but it is not secure enough. So during that risk analysis or analyzing that information that has been provided, that is really where we're able to understand, okay, which is the best solution, not just for now. We have to assess things based on now, meaning the short term, the actual medium term, and the long term as well. And
Okay.
once it is that you're able to understand what it is that you, meaning based on the resources that you have, there's certain things that you can't do right now that you'd love to do, right? But you can put certain steps in place so that it makes it easier for you to transition at a later stage. And ultimately, that is where the strategy comes in for you to now be able to understand, because, hey, you've now collected all the information, you now have all the data that you need, or as much data as possible that you need to be able to make these decisions, or at least data around your organization. But now you need to structure it in such a way that the strategies and everything from the business objectives are achieved through your IT infrastructure.
Awesome. So tell us when a CIO should start working with Annexus Technologies.
Well, to be honest, that's an interesting topic, right? I'm going to be honest with you. Typically, our sales cycle is anywhere from 6 months to a year, right? And why is that? Because our industry depends on trust.
Mm,
Now, how difficult is it to just meet someone and just trust them, give them access to your data where they can analyze this information and be able to help you? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to believe, you're going to think that, hey, this person is trying to scam you, you know? So to be honest, for us, it's about not just trying to sell you a solution. It's actually letting you understand that we are here to actually help you. We're here to actually protect you. We're here to ensure that you are safe no matter what. And typically that takes time to build that trust.
Oh, okay. So what do you do? How do you work with them to build that trust?
It really depends on the client, right? So it really depends on the client. Like you have some clients that all you need to do is to just be there, right? Like when it is that they need you, like in terms of information, just general information, just wanting to know, you have to educate them and help them to be able to get from point A to point B. And when it is that you get them to point B and then later point C, they'll always look back and appreciate that and say, hey, we appreciate what you've done, and you ultimately are able to build that trust. Then they're the more skeptical clients. Hey, what they have, it's working fine. They don't need you. Who are you? You came from nowhere. You're probably spamming them, all these things. For those, you really just relax. So what this is what I've learned, right? If you know that you have the answer, you know that what you have is the right answer, there's no way you can force the truth to someone. Like there's a saying to say that, hey, you can take the horse to water, but you cannot force it to drink,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So
True,
we
true.
can have all the information, all the truth, all of this, but at the end of the day, you're not going to believe us. You need to see it for yourself. So we need to have that patience for us to be able to not just present the information to you, but allow you the chance to validate it based on your understanding. And then
Yeah.
based on that, we can then come back in when you are comfortable for us to be able to assist you. But to be honest, if that level of trust is not there, we will not be able to assist you, because we're gonna see certain things that we're gonna say, okay, hey, we need to move here, we need to move there, but because you don't trust us, you're not gonna do it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, case in point, look at the Titanic, right? Just imagine you being the engineer, right? And ultimately you saw this iceberg and you're like, hey, there's an iceberg, there's an iceberg. Everybody else is going to be looking at you like, hey, man, we're having fun. Like, why are you telling us about this iceberg? Why are you trying to mess up our plans, right? And then it isn't until everyone hits that iceberg, they're like, oh, why didn't you tell us about the iceberg? Like, hey, I did tell you, you just didn't listen.
Ah,
So IT is pretty much the same, right? A lot of times we're literally trying to stop a chaotic event, and 9 times out of 10, nobody believes you.
yeah.
No one believes. But
Wow.
you have to ensure that you stick it out, that you continue to provide that same consistent information in that same tone, in that
Yeah.
same manner, that they understand that, look, you're not here yes, you're not here to make a profit. You're here to actually help them. And in helping them, the byproduct is you will make a profit.
Okay. Got it. I love that. Okay. So what are you busy working on right now?
So to be honest, right now we're really focused more on solutions that are going to be able to, let's say, help the future, so to speak, right? So to be honest, we're focused on next generation platforms. We have partnerships with numerous next generation solutions, so to speak. And ultimately, with these particular platforms, we expect that we're able to bring them together in a complete ecosystem that is able to protect the client end to end. But ideally, when it is that you're building a solution of this magnitude, especially with clients that are they're new to your way of doing things, they typically take some time. So what we'd like to do is to basically, to some extent, breadcrumb them, right? So we start off with this, we achieve that objective, and then we move on to the others. And for us, the ecosystem that we're trying to build is not just going to encompass the data that is within your organization and protecting it, but also how that data is transferred from one organization to the next. Now we see a huge thing where cloud, right? Clouds are all over the place. But in actuality, what about cloud redundancy? Not many people are actually looking at that. Everyone is just focused on putting their entire infrastructure in one cloud infrastructure and ensuring that it's fine. But no, what about ensuring that you have your cloud separated and set up in such a way that they're synchronized with each other? So in the event, let's say like Azure goes down, AWS is still working. You actually have a replication or a replica of that data within AWS, and it keeps going. So we believe that the future of IT in itself is going to be, I would say, redundancy, but at the cloud scale.
Okay, cool. And where can my audience find out more about you and what you do?
Well, definitely. So we're available on all the major social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. But also, or you can check us out on our website, Annexus Tech. So that's www.annexustech.ca. And you'll be able to not just connect with us, but also see some of the solutions that we offer and ultimately how we can start the process of helping.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Anything that you want to tell CIOs as we close this podcast today?
Definitely. One, I would say for sure, do not lock into any particular vendor. Lock into solutions. Why is that? At the end of the day, if it is that you have two firewalls, right, one behind the other, if both of them are the same model, the same platform, the same everything, if they can break into the first one, they can break into the second one. However, you actually increase the probability of them not getting in by ensuring that they're two separate types of firewall. They're two separate vendors completely. They're differently they're configured differently. Why is that? Because if they're able to get through to the first one, they're going to expect that, oh yeah, the other ones are going to be the same, but in actuality, they end up now seeing a different platform, which ends up increasing the probability of them not being able to gain access. And also you being aware when it is that they actually try to affect our systems. So honestly, don't get locked in with a vendor. Look at the overall overarching solution that you're trying to achieve and design from there. The vendors, they will, based on what what you want to achieve, you will be able to put the vendors in their respective puzzle pieces, so to speak.
I'm loving this. Andrew, it's been a fantastic conversation, and I'm really excited about what Annexus Technology is doing and what they're doing next. So thank you so much for being a guest on the Stay on Course podcast.
So thank you very much, Julie, and looking forward to also your other venues as well, because to be honest, it's something that I follow. I've been following your platform for quite a bit, and I must say it is definitely a way to stay on course to success, and very much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. All the best. Bless.